Beneath a sky splattered with fading hues of twilight, an ancient oak tree stood sentinel by a glimmering waterfall. Its roots, gnarled and wide, seemed to embrace the flowing stream beside it. This was no ordinary tree. Its leaves shimmered faintly, catching the last light of the day and turning it into a golden aura. It radiated an energy that spoke of timeless wisdom and quiet power, a place where nature itself seemed alive, watching, waiting. The air was thick with the scent of moss and the distant hum of cicadas. The sound of the cascading waterfall harmonized with the gentle rustle of the oak's leaves. Here, the world felt distant, as though time had paused to pay homage to this sacred place. It was a haven untouched by the chaos of modernity, a secret known only to those who truly sought it. Lena, a weary traveler, arrived at this hidden glade by chance, or so she thought. The soles of her boots were worn, and her spirit was heavy. She had wandered far, chasing solace after years of feeling unmoored. Her journey had brought her to the edge of this forest, but something unspoken had guided her deeper, drawing her to the oak tree and the waterfall. It felt as though the place had been waiting for her. Exhausted, she sank to the ground beneath the oak's sprawling canopy. Its roots, cool and smooth, formed a natural seat. She leaned back, letting the rhythmic cascade of the waterfall lull her into a rare moment of peace. For the first time in years, the noise in her mind began to quiet. She closed her eyes, her breathing slowing, unaware of the magic beginning to stir around her. When she opened her eyes again, the world was subtly different. The glow of the oak's leaves had intensified, casting a golden light that made the waterfall's mist shimmer like stars. The air seemed to hum with a melody just beyond hearing. Lena felt a tingling in her chest, a sense of being watched, not with malice, but with an ancient, benevolent curiosity. She had crossed a threshold, though she didn't yet understand it. This was no ordinary glade, and the oak tree was no mere tree. The guardian of the forest had awakened, and Lena was about to embark on a journey that would change her life forever. The sun dipped below the horizon, leaving only the golden glow of the oak tree and the soft luminescence of the waterfall's mist to light the glade. Lena's gaze lingered on the shimmering leaves, her fingers tracing patterns in the cool soil at her feet. There was a tranquility in the air, a lullaby in the sounds of nature that made her eyelids grow heavy. She was about to drift off when a faint voice broke through the stillness. "Welcome, Lena," it whispered, soft and melodic, like the rustling of leaves in a gentle breeze. Her eyes flew open, and she looked around, her heart pounding. But there was no one there, only the oak tree, its golden glow pulsing faintly, as if in time with her heartbeat. "Who's there?" she asked, her voice trembling. She stood, her boots crunching against the forest floor. The waterfall roared softly in the background, but the voice came again, clearer this time. "Do not fear," it said. "You have been chosen." Lena took a step back, her eyes fixed on the tree. The glow intensified, and the air around her seemed to shimmer. She felt a strange pull, as if the tree's energy was reaching out to her, wrapping her in a warm, invisible embrace. "Chosen for what?" she asked, her voice steadier now. Her curiosity outweighed her fear. The tree's glow softened, and a figure began to take shape within its trunk, a silhouette made of light, neither fully human nor entirely otherworldly. It stepped forward, and Lena realized it was the spirit of the oak tree. "To restore the balance," the spirit said, its voice resonating in her mind as much as in her ears. "The forest is dying, its magic fading. The world beyond these trees has forgotten its connection to nature, and the harm they do weakens us all. Lena frowned, her fingers brushing against the rough bark of the tree. Why me? I'm no one special, just a traveler looking for I don't even know what. The spirit's form shimmered, its eyes, if they could be called that, seeming to pierce into her very soul. Because you still see, you hear the whispers of the leaves, the song of the water, you feel the weight of the earth beneath your feet. That is enough. Before Lena could respond, the spirit raised a glowing hand, and the world around her shifted. The glade faded, replaced by a vast, otherworldly forest bathed in twilight. Trees larger than any she had ever seen stretched toward the heavens, their leaves glimmering with colors that seemed to shift and dance. The air was alive with the hum of magic, and creatures that looked like living constellations flitted between the branches. This is the heart of the forest, the spirit said, gesturing to the ethereal landscape. But it is dying. You must help us gather the elements of renewal, light, wind, and ember, to restore its strength. Lena stared in awe, her fear forgotten in the face of such beauty. How do I find them? The spirit's form began to fade, merging back into the oak tree. The forest will guide you, it said, its voice growing faint. Trust in it and trust in yourself. And with that, Lena was alone once more, standing beneath the oak tree by the waterfall. But now, the world seemed different. She felt a connection to the forest she hadn't noticed before, as if it were alive and aware, watching her with quiet anticipation. She took a deep breath, her resolve hardening. All right, she said aloud, her voice firm. Let's do this. Lena frowned, her fingers brushing against the rough bark of the tree. Why me? I'm no one special, just a traveler looking for I don't even know what. The spirit's form shimmered, its eyes, if they could be called that, seeming to pierce into her very soul. Because you still see, you hear the whispers of the leaves, the song of the water, you feel the weight of the earth beneath your feet. That is enough. Before Lena could respond, the spirit raised a glowing hand, and the world around her shifted. The glade faded, replaced by a vast, otherworldly forest bathed in twilight. Trees larger than any she had ever seen stretched toward the heavens, their leaves glimmering with colors that seemed to shift and dance. The air was alive with the hum of magic, and creatures that looked like living constellations flitted between the branches. This is the heart of the forest, the spirit said, gesturing to the ethereal landscape. But it is dying. You must help us gather the elements of renewal, light, wind, and ember, to restore its strength. Lena stared in awe, her fear forgotten in the face of such beauty. How do I find them? The spirit's form began to fade, merging back into the oak tree. The forest will guide you, it said, its voice growing faint. Trust in it and trust in yourself. And with that, Lena was alone once more, standing beneath the oak tree by the waterfall. But now, the world seemed different. She felt a connection to the forest she hadn't noticed before, as if it were alive and aware, watching her with quiet anticipation. She took a deep breath, her resolve hardening. All right, she said aloud, her voice firm. Let's do this. The path ahead was both familiar and alien. As Lena ventured deeper into the forest, the trees seemed to whisper to her. Their voices weren't in words, but in sensations, a gentle pull to the left, a warm breeze that urged her forward, or the faint glow of bioluminescent moss marking her way. She didn't question it. The guidance felt natural, like following a river's current. Hours passed, though time felt irrelevant in this enchanted forest. Every step revealed new wonders. Flowers glowed like lanterns, lighting her path in hues of soft blue and gold. Streams of crystal clear water carved intricate patterns through the land, their surfaces reflecting the shifting colors of the sky. Creatures, some familiar, others entirely fantastical, watched her from the shadows, their eyes glinting with curiosity. Eventually, Lena arrived at a clearing. At its center stood a pedestal carved from stone, its surface etched with runes that glowed faintly. Surrounding the pedestal were 3 paths, each marked by a different symbol: a sunburst, a feather, and a flame. The elements of renewal, she realized. This was where her journey truly began. As she approached the pedestal, a figure emerged from the shadows. It was humanoid but ethereal, its form made of shifting light and shadow. "You stand at the crossroads, Seeker," it said, its voice resonating like a choir. "The path you choose first will shape the challenges ahead." Lena hesitated, her gaze shifting between the 3 symbols. Each seemed to call to her in a different way. The sunburst radiated warmth and clarity. The feather whispered of freedom and agility, and the flame burned with raw power and passion. "How do I choose?" she asked. The figure's form shimmered. "Listen to your heart, Lena. It knows the way." Taking a deep breath, Lena closed her eyes. She let the sounds of the forest wash over her, the whispers of the trees and the hum of magic guiding her. When she opened her eyes, her choice was clear. Lena's gaze lingered on the symbol of the sunburst. Its warmth beckoned her, filling her with a sense of hope and clarity she hadn't felt in years. With a steadying breath, she placed her hand on the glowing sunburst rune, and the forest around her seemed to hold its breath. A pulse of golden light radiated from the pedestal, enveloping her in a cocoon of warmth. The clearing dissolved, and she found herself standing in a vast, sunlit expanse. The air shimmered, as though the world itself was alive with light, and the scent of wildflowers wafted through the breeze. In the distance, golden hills rolled toward the horizon, where a radiant sun hung low, casting long, gentle rays. "This realm tests your resolve," a familiar voice echoed, though the source was unseen. It was the spirit of the oak tree, though its tone was softer now, less commanding. "The element of light awaits, but only those who see through the illusions of doubt and fear may claim it." Lena looked around, shielding her eyes from the brightness. Despite the beauty, the landscape felt strange, as though it held secrets just beneath its surface. She took her first cautious step, the ground beneath her soft and warm like sunlit sand. As Lena walked, the golden fields began to shift. The rolling hills flattened into a vast, featureless plain. Shadows danced at the edges of her vision, growing longer and darker despite the ever-present sunlight. The air grew heavier, and a chill crept into her bones. "You don't belong here," a voice hissed, low and venomous. It seemed to come from everywhere at once. Lena spun around, but she was alone. "Turn back before it's too late." She clenched her fists, her heart racing. The golden light around her began to dim, the shadows closing in. Faces formed in the darkness, twisted, mocking visages that jeered and whispered her deepest fears. "You'll fail. You're not strong enough. You're a wanderer with no purpose. Why bother?" The words struck her like blows, each one dredging up memories of past failures and regrets. She fell to her knees, her breath shallow and rapid. The light was almost gone now, swallowed by the encroaching darkness. "No," she whispered, her voice trembling, then louder, "No! I've come too far to give up now." She forced herself to stand, planting her feet firmly on the ground. The shadows recoiled slightly, their whispers growing fainter. "I'm not afraid of you," she said, her voice steadying. "I've faced worse than this. You're just illusions." The moment she spoke the words, The shadows shattered like glass, the darkness peeling away to reveal the golden landscape once more. The warmth returned, stronger than before, and Lena felt a surge of determination. The sunlit plain gave way to a wide chasm, its depths hidden by a swirling mist. On the other side stood a pedestal identical to the one in the forest clearing, and atop it rested a glowing orb, the element of light. A narrow bridge of golden light stretched across the chasm, shimmering and fragile looking. Lena approached cautiously, her steps faltering as she stared into the abyss. The bridge looked insubstantial, as though it might dissolve under her weight. "Trust in yourself," the spirit's voice echoed again. "The light will carry those who believe." She swallowed hard, doubt creeping back into her mind. But the memory of overcoming the shadows strengthened her resolve. Taking a deep breath, she stepped onto the bridge. The moment her foot touched the light, it felt solid, yet it wavered beneath her like a ripple on water. She took another step and then another, her heart pounding with each one. The mist below seemed to swirl hungrily, but she kept her eyes fixed on the orb ahead. Halfway across, the bridge began to tremble. A gust of wind whipped through the chasm and the light flickered. Lena's fear surged and she stumbled, falling to her hands and knees. The bridge dimmed further, the edges dissolving into mist. "I can't do this," she whispered, panic rising. But then she remembered the spirit's words. "Trust in yourself." She closed her eyes, taking a slow, deep breath. She pictured the oak tree, its golden glow steady and unwavering. She imagined its strength flowing into her, grounding her. When she opened her eyes, the bridge was stable once more. Standing, she continued forward with renewed confidence. The moment she stepped off the bridge onto the far side, it vanished behind her, leaving her alone with the pedestal. The orb atop the pedestal radiated a pure golden glow. As Lena approached, she felt its warmth envelop her, soothing and invigorating all at once. She reached out, her fingers brushing its surface. The moment she made contact, a surge of energy coursed through her, filling her with light. Visions flashed before her eyes, the forest thriving, its magic restored, the oak tree's golden leaves shimmering brighter than ever, creatures of all shapes and sizes flourishing in harmony. She saw herself standing beneath the oak, stronger and more confident, a protector of the forest's magic. The vision faded, and Lena found herself back in the clearing by the waterfall. The sunburst rune on the pedestal now glowed brightly, a symbol of her triumph. The spirit's voice echoed once more. "You have claimed the first element, Lena. The journey is far from over, but you have proven your worth. The forest will guide you to the next path." Lena looked up at the oak tree, its golden light seeming to pulse in time with her heartbeat. She felt a connection to it now, stronger than ever. The element of light was hers, and with it, the first step toward restoring the forest's magic had been taken. With renewed determination, she turned toward the next path, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Lena stood at the edge of the clearing, the golden light of the sunburst rune still radiating warmly within her. The first trial had been overcome, but her journey was far from complete. She turned to the next path, marked by the symbol of a feather, its delicate form fluttering in the wind. The air around it shimmered, and a gentle breeze stirred the leaves at her feet. This path, unlike the last, felt light and free, a contrast to the heavy shadows she had just faced. Lena took a deep breath, filling her lungs with the fresh, crisp air that seemed to beckon her forward. She stepped onto the new path, and instantly the world around her began to change. The air grew lighter, and the ground beneath her feet softened into a field of tall grasses that swayed gently in the wind. Above, the sky stretched wide and endless, dotted with clouds that moved swiftly, as if being carried by the breeze. The soft rush of the wind was like a song, carrying a melody she couldn't quite grasp, but felt deep within her heart. "Welcome to the path of wind," the voice of the oak spirit echoed, no longer just in her ears, but in her very thoughts. "This trial will test your ability to adapt, to let go of control, and to trust in the flow of life. The element of wind awaits, but you must learn to surrender to it." Lena nodded, feeling both curious and apprehensive. The wind whispered through the grasses, guiding her forward, and she followed, knowing the only way through this trial was to embrace the unknown, the illusion of control. The path ahead seemed to stretch endlessly, but as Lena walked, she began to feel a strange pull, a desire to hurry, to find the element of wind as quickly as possible. She quickened her pace, but the wind began to grow stronger, pushing against her, as if trying to slow her down. The more she resisted, the harder the wind blew, making her stumble and lose her footing. "No," Lena gasped, trying to press forward, but her steps faltered. The wind swirled around her, tugging at her clothes and hair as though mocking her efforts to control it. She gritted her teeth and fought harder against the pull, her body straining with each step. But no matter how hard she tried, she couldn't break free from the wind's grasp. It felt as though the world itself was conspiring to keep her still, reminding her of all the times in her life when she had tried to force things to happen before they were meant to. The wind whispered in her ears, soft at first, then louder, until it became a chorus of voices, each one reflecting a doubt she had held within herself. "You can't control everything. Why fight it? You're always trying to have everything figured out. Maybe you're just not meant for this." Lena paused, her breath coming in ragged gasps. The wind wasn't going to stop, no matter how hard she fought. For the first time since she had entered the forest, Lena stopped resisting. She let go of her need for control, allowing herself to be carried by the wind, to flow with it instead of against it. As she surrendered, something incredible happened. The wind no longer pushed against her. Instead, it lifted her up, flowing around her like a river. She felt light, weightless, as though she were part of the very air itself. The world blurred around her, and for a moment it was as if time had stopped, and she was suspended in the moment. The element of wind. When the wind finally settled, Lena found herself standing at the edge of a cliff, overlooking an expanse of vast rolling clouds. The air was calm now, the wind a gentle, steady breeze. Before her, on a stone pedestal, rested the element of wind, a crystal that seemed to pulse with the very rhythm of the atmosphere around it. Lena stepped forward, her heart still beating with the aftershocks of her experience. As she touched the crystal, a rush of air swept through her, lifting her spirit and filling her with an understanding that transcended words. She understood in that moment that life was not something to be forced or controlled. It was a dance, a flow that required patience and trust. The wind whispered, "You have learned to let go. You have learned to trust the journey, even when the way is unclear. The element of wind is yours." As the vision faded, Lena found herself back in the clearing, the feather rune now glowing brightly beside the sunburst symbol. She felt the warmth of both elements within her, like the sun and the breeze, together giving her the strength to continue her journey. "Two elements," the spirit of the oak tree said, its voice resonating with pride. "One more remains. The final trial awaits you." Lena smiled, feeling lighter than she had in days. She had conquered the trial of fear and the trial of control. She was ready for whatever came next. Turning toward the final path, marked by the flame, she stepped forward with determination in her heart. Lena stood before the oak tree once more, the weight of the three elements now resting within her. Her heart was full, but her mind was focused, knowing that this final step would determine the fate of the forest and of herself. The glowing sunburst, the shimmering feather, and the radiant ember pulsed softly within her pack, each holding its own unique energy. She had faced trials that tested her courage, resilience, and trust, but now she was ready to complete her journey. The golden light of the oak's leaves seemed to respond to her presence, growing brighter and more intense, as if the tree itself was waiting for her to return. She knelt beside the massive roots, placing the three elements on the earth before her. The air was thick with anticipation, and the waterfall's song seemed to deepen, as though the very land was holding its breath. The oak's voice filled her mind, soft yet powerful. You have gathered the elements, Lena. You have faced the trials of light, wind, and ember, and in doing so you have rediscovered the strength within yourself. But now, the ritual of renewal begins. You must offer your heart to the earth, trusting in the bond between you and the forest. Lena nodded, her fingers brushing against the first element, the glowing orb of light. As she touched it, the warmth spread through her, filling her with a sense of clarity and purpose. The light from the orb flowed into the ground, creating a shimmering pathway of energy that connected her to the roots of the oak tree. The earth seemed to hum, alive with the power of the light. Next, she reached for the feather, the element of wind. She closed her eyes, feeling the wind around her, the breeze lifting her spirit. She whispered a prayer of gratitude for the lessons learned from the wind, surrender, trust, and adaptability. As she placed the feather onto the earth, the wind picked up, swirling around her in the tree, a gentle but insistent presence. The breeze spiraled downward, feeding into the roots of the oak, as if the very air was being woven into the tree's lifeblood. Finally, Lena picked up the ember, the element of ember. She felt its warmth in her palm, the crackling fire of passion, purpose, and transformation. She closed her eyes and imagined the fire's energy flowing into her, her own inner strength igniting once more. Gently, she laid the ember on the earth, and as it touched the ground, a deep, steady warmth spread through the roots of the oak tree, filling the air with the scent of earth and fire. The oak tree trembled, its golden light pulsating stronger now, as if it was awakening from a deep slumber. The elements had begun to merge, their energies converging with the energy of the earth itself, restoring the balance that had been lost. Lena could feel the power of the tree surging beneath her, connecting her with the forest in a way she had never imagined possible. As the ritual reached its peak, the oak tree's branches stretched high, glowing with an ethereal radiance. The ground around them shook lightly, and the air was filled with the fragrance of blooming flowers and fresh earth. The waterfall's roar intensified, harmonizing with the hum of life that now resonated in every leaf, every branch, every root. The land was alive again, and so too was Lena, renewed, whole, and connected to the magic of the world. You have done it, Lena, the oak's voice whispered, a note of pride in its tone. The forest is reborn, and so are you. Take this gift, a piece of my essence, a seed of renewal. From the tree's heart, a small glowing seed appeared, shimmering with an iridescent light. It was warm to the touch, as though it held the pulse of life itself within. Lena cradled it in her palm, feeling its energy surge through her, grounding her and connecting her to the forces of nature. The oak had given her not only a gift, but a responsibility, to carry the magic of the forest with her, to protect and nurture the balance of the natural world. The tree's voice softened. Remember, Lena, the world is fragile. You are the guardian now, not only of this forest, but of the harmony between all living things. The power you have restored must be cared for, shared, and protected. Lena nodded, her heart swelling with gratitude and understanding. She knew her life had changed, that this moment would guide her path from now on. Lena awoke with a start, the sounds of the waterfall rushing in her ears, the coolness of the morning air on her face. She blinked, disoriented, her fingers curling around the seed the oak had given her. For a moment, she wondered if it had all been a dream. Had she truly been to that magical realm, faced the trials, and restored the oak's power? But as she looked around, the world felt different. The trees swayed with a new vibrancy, the sky clearer than it had ever been. The glade shimmered with a golden light, the same glow that had radiated from the oak's leaves, now dancing in the branches around her. It was as if the forest itself was breathing, alive with the energy she had helped restore. Lena rose to her feet, feeling a sense of calm and purpose she hadn't known in years. The weight of her burdens had been lifted, and though the challenges of life would remain, she felt more equipped to face them. She had found something precious in this forest, not just the magic of the oak, but the reminder that she was part of something larger, something interconnected and vital. Her journey had led her to a place of renewal, not only for the forest, but for herself. She held the seed close to her heart, knowing what she must do. This seed was a symbol of her new life, a life bound by the responsibility to protect and care for the natural world. It was a responsibility she accepted with open arms. Lena made her way to the edge of the glade, taking one last look at the oak tree. The golden glow of its leaves seemed to shimmer brighter than ever, and for the first time, Lena felt at peace with herself and the world around her. She could see the interconnectedness of all things, the delicate balance of life, the need for compassion, and the importance of protecting the earth. With a deep breath, Lena stepped away from the glade, carrying with her the lessons of the oak tree and the magic of the forest. As she walked back into the world, the path before her was clear. She would honor the gift she had been given, living in harmony with nature and striving to protect the balance between humanity and the earth. Her journey had only just begun. As Lena walked away from the glade, the weight of the oak tree's teachings settled into her heart, like the roots of the tree reaching deep within her soul. She had been lost, wandering through life's shadows, unsure of her purpose. But now she felt grounded, connected not only to the forest, but to herself. The journey she had undertaken had healed the broken parts of her, and in turn had rekindled the magic that once flowed through the land. The golden seed, now nestled in her palm, was more than just a gift. It was a promise, a reminder that life, like nature, was ever-changing, but always interconnected. The oak had shown her that even in the darkest times, there is hope to be found, and that renewal is always possible. It wasn't just the forest that needed healing. It was the world around her, and herself too. She was part of this vast cycle, a guardian not only of the earth, but of the balance between it and humanity. The air felt lighter as she continued her walk, the world around her coming to life with new energy. Birds sang, the wind whispered, and the trees danced in harmony. The forest, now vibrant and renewed, seemed to follow her with its watchful eyes. And for the first time in a long while, Lena felt ready to meet whatever lay ahead, with the knowledge that she was no longer just a wanderer, but a protector of life itself. With every step, Lena carried the lessons of the oak tree, of resilience, of trust, of harmony, and she knew that no matter where the path led, she was no longer lost. She had found her place in the world. The journey had brought her back to herself, and now the real work of nurturing the world around her had only just begun. And as the sun rose higher in the sky, casting golden rays across the earth, Lena smiled, knowing that she was part of something greater, something eternal. The magic of the forest was alive within her, and it would guide her forevermore. This marks the end of Lena's transformative journey, a new chapter where the bonds of nature, healing, and responsibility shape her future.